Welcome, everybody. This is the Fall Line with Chaos and Company. I am super psyched. It is hot as heck here in New England and across the country here in the U.S. And we have all the way from Portillo, we have the coach of the Alpine team, Michael Rogan. We also have second-term member just making the team again for his second term, a full 4-year this time, Troy. None of this 3-year term stuff. So he's got a full 4-year coming, unless the coach changes his mind over there. I don't know. He's kind of making some faces. So, but congratulations, Troy, on that. So we're psyched to do that, to put this out. And Angelo's here, and we'll thank our sponsors real quick, Blizzard Technica and Nick's Boot Fitting, that we won't see till probably October when we're all getting our feet in boots, and then rollerblade. Everybody's rollerblading right now. Chris Erickson, and I know probably Brian Dolan might be down there at Big Snow to do some skiing at Big Snow and some rollerblading before they get on there, which would be pretty cool. But we're bringing you this. Troy went down to Portillo. This is his second time down to Chile, but his first time to Portillo, which is pretty awesome. And Michael, you're down there. I don't know. We're going to ask you how many winters it's been other than COVID hitting in there. It's been a long time, I know. But Troy, what's it been like, man? That first text you sent us was like, oh my God.
It's such a different place because you're high up in the mountains. You're staying right at about 8,500 feet, and everything else is 12,000 feet high. You look around and all you see is amazing vistas every direction. You just can't you can't look someplace and find something that you don't want to stare at for a while.
Yeah. And I know last time you were down there, you were searching for snow, because you went farther south, I think, when you were there a few years ago, but this time it's abundant.
Didn't have to search for it at all. It lands right here, and a lot of it.
Yeah. Because the guy next to you on the screen, I know, was sending stuff on Facebook and stuff. It was getting snow down there the last month or so. I was watching. I'm going, yeah, okay. I can't go skiing, but I'm glad I'm seeing it. Somebody, look at him smiling. He's like, yeah, it's pounding down here. You were showing the access road, Michael, getting up there to Portillo and the snow piling up. That was pretty cool. So you've been out skiing, I guess. You said the skiing was good today.
Skiing is great today. Yeah, skiing has been great since we opened.
Yeah.
Today was our first warm-ish day. The week while Troy has been here, it was below freezing all day, every day. So that was really good. So the snow stayed nice and dry. Today it finally got warm enough to soften a little bit, which made some of the wind pack stuff a little bit more user friendly. But there's some amazing skiing right here, right now, and there's lots of it. For a small place like Portillo is, where it's 1,200 acres, you can ski every 1,200 acre of it, and it makes it a big place. I mean, it's so fun to hear Troy talk about it, and as I'm experiencing it with him. But it's pretty special right now. Portillo is in its full bloom, which is wonderful.
That is awesome. Yeah, Troy was showing the lake and some photos he was sending to a bunch of us and stuff. And every comment he had is like, it's just amazing. The runs are so long. The snow is so good.
Yeah, it's good.
So Andrew will be flying down there tomorrow. He's gonna, come down and put it on your credit card. And because he said you invited him, so he's gonna head down tomorrow. Leave his skateboard.
Yeah, no, I have just the credit card that he can use.
So, Michael, you've been traveling down there a long time. You've been down there for decades now, I believe. You can tell us how long, but your role down there at Portillo has evolved. I think you started teaching down there, and then it's evolved over the years. Can you just tell the folks? I don't know if everyone out there and listeners know that.
Yeah, I started here in 1989 as a ski instructor, looking to ply the trade year round, not wanting to do the traditional summertime gigs. And I wanted to make a go of what a career in the ski industry could be. And I got fortunate enough. I met Jimmy Ackerson when he was the director of the school in Bromley, Vermont. I met him through an introduction with Bruno Gubetta, who is a name that we would all know about. Bruno Gubetta worked down here for a season and made the connection while I was working at Pico. But I came here in 1989 as a ski instructor. In 1995, I became the director of the school. And then in 2000 and something, I got the job as the Purcell family wanted to get into other hotels, and Miguel Purcell specifically, the RGM, wanted to get into other hotels around the country of Chile. They developed a hotel in the north in the Atacama Desert. They developed a hotel in the south in Patagonia, right on the lake where the Patagonia logo comes from. And then they also developed a hotel on the island of Chiloé, off the coast of Chile. And without those projects, asked for some help running the place. And I am the operations manager. That's the title I have, but the job that I get to do is work here and make sure that employees and guests have fun, stay safe as possible, and enjoy themselves. And it's a small place owned by the Purcell family, and they allow me to do some things that I don't get to see done in many other ski areas. The way that I know about how skiers move around, skiers and snowboarders move around a mountain, and they allow me to do some things that are pretty fun and special. And I get to see and be involved in things that are pretty neat, like snowcat driving and snowmaking and lift tower climbing and all those things that require too much logistics and bureaucracy in the U.S. You get to come down here, and it's fun to be creative with the ski area and the snowboard area. So it's just fun.
Yeah. And in the winter, in our winter here in the U.S., when you're up here, you're still kind of you're the ski pro on the hill. I know you're out there teaching beginners, and you're doing that. That's full time. And then down there, you got a mix of it. So how much time do you get to spend on snow skiing in Portillo now with your job?
I skied more than Troy today.
It's good to be the boss, Angelo. Oh man!
I mean, not all of it was Troy, myself, and Troy, and Katie White, a teammate of ours. We got, I don't know, 3 or 4 runs in today together. That was a blast. And then I had some work to do while they went in and had lunch. That was fortunate. That kept me outside so that I could keep skiing for a couple of runs after some of the work stuff calls. But I mean, you're always looking at something, you're always thinking about something, you're always checking on something. So I call it all work, but I got to ski more than Troy today, and he was on vacation. I didn't do
That's cool. Now, do you? I imagine you probably still teach a lesson or two or a training session down in Portillo. I mean, how much are you involved in like teaching when you're down there? Because up here in the north, I know, man, that is what you do every second, every minute in the winter in the U.S. But when you're down in Portillo, how's that working?
Not a whole lot, actually. Troy and I have been able to ski together quite a bit while he's been down here. And Katie White, who runs the school, when she gets the opportunity, she's been able to join us. So the 3 of us as teammates have had quite a bit of time together. But from a teaching point of view, no, very little. Katie asked me to put in a uniform on a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of our season. She thought she might have been a little short, but ended up I didn't get the call. So I just put on an instructor uniform, which felt good. But I don't get a whole lot of stuff here. There's always something going on to look at or think about between the national teams coming and training and guests coming in and some of the slopes that we get to manage and deal with and signage and where things are. I just don't get that time, which is good for me. I still think about it all the time. I still think about ski instruction and teaching because I get to be a resort operator that is a ski instructor that allows me to think about how a beginner guest might move around the ski area a little bit easier, a little bit harder, or how I can make it easier for them to get around. I mean, one of the rules that I have is everything is downhill from everything. So no matter where you are on the resort, you can get to another place, and it can all be done by going downhill and sliding. You might have to take the long road around it. But that's a philosophy that I have in running a resort, that everything is downhill from everything. So you don't have to really push that hard or that far.
Yeah. And what countries? I know a lot of the countries you're saying, the national teams. What teams come in to get their season started and training down there?
we will have the U.S. men and women speed teams. We will have, including on the women's side, we'll have Michaela Schifrin. We will have the Canadian men. We will have the Norwegian men, and we will have the 3 Swiss men. The Austrians used to come here for a while, but they've moved to a different place for a couple of times. But everybody seems to come back because the resorts, the training in Chile and South America is really different. Each place has a different personality, and some of them are really easy and cruisy and long and gradual, and you can practice your gliding. And then a place like Portillo, which is right in your face and steep and hard and fast right out of the get-go. It polishes a different set of skills. You need all of them, obviously, but here in Portillo, there isn't a whole lot of gliding. There's a lot of, you get up to speed fast. There's a lot of turning. There's a lot of terrain. It's a shorter downhill. It's not a really long one. So there's, if you do one all the time, you get used to it, and it becomes a little bit too Rogan Jack here in Portillo. It's never easy, but it becomes relatively known. They know what it's about, what to expect, and therefore it's not fresh in their minds. Whereas when you can change a place up every now and again, it's a new challenge mentally, and it keeps the athlete engaged, and it keeps the coach engaged in the elements that go into being successful, whether it be here or at some other ski area. I mean, that's just the way that the nature of the beast of any World Cup training is.
And if folks want to go, like Angelo, I know he's itching. He might have to go talk to Amanda after we finish the podcast hey, I need to make a trip. This is the ski season, but when are the key times, and like, what is spring skiing in general, and what is like the main season? Is it August? Is it July?
So it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to predict. This year, July has been unbelievable. We got great snow right off the get-go. We were 100% open right from from day one. So if you came in July, you did really well because the snow was great, and there was very little competition for the terrain that somebody listening to this would be interested in, because there are lots of school holidays for South American countries. So we have lots of families now, lots of kids, and although they're good skiers, God, you look at some of there's just lots of terrain to ski. I mean, Troy can talk about it is better than I can, having experienced it. But that's what July is like. Lots of families, and then August, those schools are back in session. So Americans seem to come down. North Americans seem to come down, and we get really crazy for a couple of 2 weeks in August, busy. But everybody is looking for the same terrain. So there's lots of competition for some of the terrain that Troy, Katie, and I ski today, the Roca Jack, for example, or the Cara Cara. We're the only ones on the hill. I mean, literally the only 4 people on 1,000 vertical foot slope. We're the only ones out there because there wasn't any competition for that terrain. So if North Americans have found month of August, if you can filter into July, it's really good. And if you can go afterwards, once school in the U.S. has started in September, as well, the amount of people that are looking for the similar terrain tanks, and you have the whole place to yourself. Seems like
that's cool. Yeah, Troy, the terrain. It's like, what are you coaching, man? Oh, Angelo, go ahead. You got something, bud.
Look at that grin on Troy's
face. I know.
I mean, you guys talk about it. It's like, yeah, Michael mentions 1,000 vertical feet, but we also ski up it because we're getting dragged by these crazy palmas that go really, really fast, and you got 5 people next to you on a palma, which that you don't see that back home for sure. So you get a lot of time, and there's no line. So you get to the bottom, you're huffing and puffing, and you're like, yeah, it'd be nice to have a line, but there isn't. So I guess I'm going to do it again.
So you got in some skiing with the coach and with Katie, and Katie, this is Katie's first term on the team, right? Just so congratulations to Katie. We'll have to get her on sometime and chat with her. But
Director
Troy,
of training
what
at
are
the
you teaching
Yellowstone
down?
Club.
What's that, Michael?
Katie's the director of training at the Yellowstone Club in Montana, and then the director of the school here.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll definitely have her on. And so, Troy, what are you doing down there for Katie and Michael? Are you coaching a bunch? I mean, this morning it sounds like you got to go skiing with the coach and with Katie.
I am doing nothing but working on myself.
Cool.
And it's just been wonderful. It's like, I can ski when I want to ski as hard or as fast or slow, and just have a great vent. It's been really, really, really good.
Yeah. And as we said, congrats on second term. Us here in the East, we're behind you and our team. We're super excited for second term and a full 4-year term. And I know, because you said it after the first one, and we got the coach here, who I think is a big part of that feedback. You get pretty specific, and it's not so super short, as you say. It's kind of long, the feedback you get for the team members after they've made the team as to what to work on and where you got to grow. What are some of the things you're working on your skiing while you're down there?
I mean, if you try to add too much of anything here, you're going to get more than what you expect. It's just such a big, there's so much pull. There's so much, or the snow has so much feedback. So there's just so much coming at you. So being able to be strong in places, but be very subtle, but allowing the ski to keep moving forward through all phases of the turn on pitch, it's bigger pitch than we have back home. That's for sure. There's a lot of stuff that's coming at you. So that's been just being super consistent with that, consistent shape, consistent speed, letting the mountain do some of the work, but being real accurate with everything. So I don't know if I could really nail it down to like one thing.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because that's what I wanted to ask Michael. You've been going down there since 1989. I think, what did you miss? Maybe was it one season because of COVID or something like that?
There were 2 seasons because of COVID, and then there was a couple other seasons earlier than that one.
But I mean, that's a lot of year-round skiing.
Mm-hmm.
Winter just keeps going, the endless winter. And I'm curious because you've been doing down there, and I know the terrain is spectacular down there, but you're out west at Heavenly, and you've been at different places in the East, but so you've had great terrain to ski here in the US, but do you work on different things? Because you're not coaching a lot while you're down there now, but I know you were in the past, but do you work on different things while you're down there because of the terrain, the snow, than you do, or the way the job is for you now in the North versus the Southern Hemisphere?
Yeah. Yes and no. And I'll say yes, because in the States, there's lots of long blue runs. We have one good long blue run here. So you can really arc and carve there's one run that's pretty good, half of another that speed isn't a factor.
Yeah.
So you can pay attention to edging and bending a ski and how you move to the front and the back and forth. And you can do that while you're looking at a turn that is much more refined in its use of edge and pressure. Whereas the other slopes that we're on are steep enough where you have to control your speed. So you have to skid a little bit. And because of that, it's about how we were talking about it. I think it was yesterday, Troy, that one little section on the plateau there's one little section. The plateaus are a pretty steep blue run, and it's just steep enough that you really need to control your speed. And if you don't control your stuff right off the get-go, it can get out of hand and get away from you. And then the turn, instead of being a short to a medium turn, it becomes a medium to a long turn. And then you end up accelerating and you get going faster and faster versus just maintaining and managing a controlled arc. And there's one section of this plateau that, for whatever reason, whether it be a little bit of snowmaking or a little bit of avalanche debris or some wind deposit, just right in the middle. It just rolls off just a little bit more. And there's about three short turns in there that is good and steep for a blue run. And if you don't go into it controlled and organized and in balance, and your feet underneath you, and able to get the front of the ski to start the ski's moving forward more than just pitch sideways. You come out of those three turns going way too fast, and suddenly it goes from a short turn to a big turn, and you go like, screw it, I'm down at the bottom. I'm just going to start making these arcs. And if you can ski in that one little section or that one spot, it's really just the right pitch. Whereas if you don't keep yourself organized and in control, and it doesn't mean that you got to go slow, like everything is always at the bottom of the turn and heavy at the bottom, but you can do a bunch of stuff, a bunch of different things with the ski in different places of the turn if you're moving well with your skis. And if you're not, the feet get out in front of you just a little bit, you get a little bit twisty early, and then you end up with a heavy spot at the bottom. And then that causes a light spot at the beginning, and then it's usually up and twist instead of no up and just moving inside and getting the ski to work for you. So it falls apart quickly in a matter of three turns if you're not careful. And that's just a fun. It's just a great little place to play and work, and you don't have to think about too much except for how did I do in those three at that little spot. And if you get it right, you know it. And if you don't get it right, you know it, which is a theme that we've talked about from tryouts. Those things don't change. How do you manage stuff when stuff can get away from you? And if stuff gets away from you, it runs away. And when it runs away, how do you catch up to it? So it's a theme everywhere.
Yeah, and I wanted to get my co-host here excited and chatting about learning stuff, because I know Troy and I have worked a bunch together, and we're always talking skiing and rooming. And as Troy calls it, we have a lot of windshield time together in the car. Sometimes we spend more time in the car here and when we're traveling around the East than we do on the hill. But it was interesting because at the development team tryout this year, I wanted to have the ability to promote play and experimentation and exploration be a big thing. And Sue Kramer was giving some feedback on her to the staff out here on one of her summer letters, talking about that there were some things that was highlighted a little bit at different times in the tryout, that same fundamental. And I know working with Troy that we have done some things in the past that we've really challenged ourselves with play and experimenting, where we would take multiple assessment activities and put them together to try to do how many assessment activities can we do in one task, right, Troy?
Yes.
And and you just mentioned it, it's a lot of play. And I think when you guys are working on your skiing, this is just me from chatting with the two of you a little bit, that at times it's like right on, I'm working on this specific thing. I'm trying to, on this run, I'm on East Fall at Killington, and I'm trying to get this done. But then you get into a different snow surface, or you might just be playing with some tactical stuff. You're kind of playing with the timing of things or the rate you're doing it. So you're being more playful. And I just wanted to have kind of a discussion. I know Angelo will be loving it, because he, and I agree with him, we tend to get very structured into just, we're going to do this one thing. I'm going to fix and get everybody to turn their legs more. But there's so many nuances to it. And that's what I wanted to chat about. Like, how do you guys, through your own skiing, how do you coach yourselves, and how do you at times play? How do you at times work on a specific fundamental for a specific ski performance outcome? And how much do you do that back and forth depending on the day or snow? Troy's shaking his head.
I can take this one. I can jump in on this. I think we all have a bunch of skis right now that, and if we look at our ski quiver, they're usually somewhere around a 15 meter, 16 meter, 17 meter, something like that. But we don't play in the ranges very often. We don't get much shorter than that in our radiuses. We don't get much longer than that. And I think we can get pretty dull in our movements when we only play with that one that really feels good. To go out on a 25 meter GS ski and ski short turns, boy, that's a lot different than me doing short turns on my slalom ski. It's a lot different than me doing it on my on a steadfast. It's just it's a different tool, so I have to do different things to kind of keep fresh on that. So I think there's a lot of times, and I've always encouraged anybody that I'm working with, play with different radius skis, different lengths, be able to do different stuff. You might have to move up. You might have to do something. You have to. It's the puzzle that we work on every single time we go out on skis.
Yeah, and I have to throw it to you, Troy. What were in some of your teaching segments? How did you explore or play at the tryout? Because you have some short segments and then some long ones, and you've got to really display your coaching at a level that's pretty high there to make that team. Was there any kind of a specific thing you did in one segment to show that?
I think with the shorter segment, it felt like that was more playful because I was doing a bump progression, and I thought that it was just that plays to me well when I get into terrain, because because there's so many variables, and if you go in there with too much rigidity, you're going to probably get bounced out. So I go in with a pretty soft attitude, pretty soft coaching, but then started getting people to move a little differently and just play with the rate of movements and how fast, how slow, how much we're going to be twisting. Can we hold a twist for a second or so? Give them the parameters, but also just give them the permission to if fail is the right word, but no big deal. Try something different. We don't know what the result's going to be, but all I'm really looking for is to have someone have something else in their toolbox to be able to use in their skiing. So I don't know if I could remember exactly what I did on that, but it felt good because you could just play with parameters. You could just go all over the place.
Yeah. And coach, what makes that team. You've been the coach now a couple terms. I mean, you got to be a versatile ski teacher, and you can't just teach one way. You've got to use all the fundamentals and be able to do that. I mean, what are some of the things you do with yourself in that mode to coach different variety to your own skiing?
Well, first of all, it's a really good question. And I put a note down here is how do you do play? And what I wrote afterwards is it's not just a free run. And I feel like that becomes, oh yeah, we went out and we skied a bunch, and therefore skiing a bunch means I played a lot, and played a lot means that, oh yeah, we played all the time. That's what I do. And I think that when it comes to skiing improvement, our job as coaches is to help people understand that they can, as Troy said, understand parameters or boundaries or spectrums of things. And it's okay to explore those so that you can kind of increase your base of skill. And just because just because you have a group of kids and you went out and you free skied doesn't mean you played with a purpose. You just went out and did stuff. And there wasn't an outcome to it, or there wasn't a thought process behind it. Or as a coach, I didn't go, all right, I'm going to ask you to make a series of short turns that go across the fall line versus down the fall line. Or over the edge, being, you guys based out of the East, but we all get it in all kinds of skiers, over the boundary of what is the groomed run, and finding places for a purpose or for a reason to go up and over. Or here in Portillo, we have this run the plateau that's got a couple of sections that gets just a little extra steeper, and you go into it and that, and we did it. I did it a couple of days ago with Troy and Katie. I was like, man, these are really good turns. My ski isn't chattering. It's not bouncing. I'm not heavy at the bottom of the turn. Here comes the steep part. Oh, yep. No, I got it. I'm still good. I got past that steep part. And then it starts to flatten out. And you're like, okay, now it just flattened out just enough that now I know I got confidence that I can continue this going. Or you have the groomed run, and then right next to the groomed run is a little bit of off piece that was wind blown and wind packed. So that's a different texture. And then you go off another 15 yards further one way, and it doesn't have as many skier tracks in it. So it's a little bit thicker crust, or not quite as packed down by skis. And if you go around this little dome a little bit, it gets a little bit more down here in South America. You want things that face south because they're drier, not north towards the equator, but south away from the equator, just like in the northern hemisphere, we want to face north, not south. But you go just around the corner a little bit and it dries out. And then you get to the bottom of this thing and it tips the other way and it gets a little sun cooked. So that there's all kinds of textures in the snow, and you can go, okay, I can do it here. Can I do it there? I can do it here. No, I can't do it here. So I got to go back to there where I can do it. And then you go back and forth and moving back and forth and finding places. Or like the Roca Jack was amazing skiing 4 days ago at the top half of the hill. The bottom half opens up and people fan out and spread out, and it just didn't have enough skier traffic on it. So it's a different consistency. So you're like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good up here. And then you suddenly you hit this demarcation line, and you hit the Mason-Dixon line, and all of a sudden it becomes a different snow condition. And you're like, I'm not as good as I think I was doing really good, but now I'm not doing so good. So how do I go about bringing what was good into what was not so good? And you kick it around that way. And I think a lot of times we take the intent or the outcome or the purpose of doing something away, and we just go free skiing, and that becomes play. And that's just an easy way out of it. And kids' lessons, oh yeah, we played a lot. They followed me all day long, and I jumped off of everything. Oh, okay, great. It was fun. But are you doing play for the purpose of trying to get the kids to make their skis parallel, or to hockey stop, or whatever? Or are you just taking play as an option to go not have to teach? And play should be something that you utilize to teach. That's the way I want to say. Or this took me a long time to get to that point, but but anybody that knows me knows that that's a tendency of mine. But do you use the play to teach or to help people learn, or are you just doing it for the sake of doing it? And if you get better, okay, the kids got better. Well, they got better because they did stuff, not necessarily because you used play to teach them, or used play to help them learn, or used play to help reflect about it and help them figure something out. That's play with a purpose. And that's what that fundamental is about. It's not about taking a free run and calling it fun, and therefore calling fun play. There's something more to it than that.
Go ahead, Angelo. You got to have something. I know he does.
I got a reaction out of him, so that's good.
Yeah.
We were in a conversation the other day about video clips, and somebody said, if we can get Michael to talk about this for 35 or 40 seconds, and I raised my little digital hand and said, Michael's never talked for 35 or 40 seconds.
I can do it. It's possible. You just got to let me know that you don't need filler time, and just be precise. I can be. Troy can attest to it. I can be.
I've seen that.
The only thing I would do is agree. I would say
that message gets sent loud and clear. When it's 35 seconds, there's no interpretation.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I would only agree. I think, on our last broadcast, Dave, I described, I recognize play, experimentation, and exploration within the confines of that fundamental as technical terms. And they're different. And play involves a challenge, it involves rules, and it involves a goal. And if you set up a learning environment like that, and it, obviously fun, then it's playful. But I agree with Michael wholeheartedly that just doing random things does not constitute play. And yes, people do get better just by being there. That's not a credit to that, like lazy teaching style. It's just how humans operate, So yeah, I fully agree with that.
This place is so special with that idea. It's like you can find a place that's got a lot of traffic on it, and man, the skiing just is so good. But you go outside of that path and you're like, yep, that's different. And then you go outside of that path and it's different again. It's so, you could just be in that one spot. It's like, I just want to do short turns here, and you're going to get a mountain full of different terrain.
And to that point, Troy, like, that environment lends itself to experimentation and exploration. Because, like, if you repeat exactly what you did off piste that you just did on piste, doesn't work the same way. And then if you go farther into whatever the shady zone or whatever, it doesn't work there. And that's a different teaching strategy, but it's purposeful, and it allows people to experiment with things or explore a range of things and determine what's going to work best for them that day and those conditions with their goals and how they feel and everything else. It's a great learning environment, and I think sometimes we get a little bit, our thinking's a little bit in a silo, and we stick to the groomer, stick to where the sunshine is. But what happens when you creep into the shade? What happens when you creep off the grooming? And that helps people get better. We might take it for granted, but people who have not done those things, that's going to be a big deal for them.
I know that there's an application to as you said, that's in the U.S. I teach at Heavenly. The majority of my work is beginner adult group lessons and family privates. And when you're there, you can still do that. It might be a little bit harder to think about it critically, but you can still do that in a beginner area and look at going a little faster, going a little slower, going across the hill. It takes a little bit of thought, but you can still do that at a beginner level. And if we can figure that out, then teaching skiing becomes fun because it's always different, and students have a lot of fun because they got some freedom to try something a little bit different. And if we shepherd them along the way, they can figure out an awful lot on their own.
Yeah. And by doing that, Michael, to your point, with I think of the beginner area at my home hill, and there is a fall line, and I see a lot of instructors keep lessons in that fall line. Yeah. But if you go across that fall line, they're learning real mountain skills, because as soon as you set them free, they're going to try to get on a chairlift, and all of a sudden they're going to be going across a fall line. If you've shown them how to do it, or you've set up the environment, they could explore that reality as they're learning, then they're prepped for that.
Yeah.
If you don't, then they're seeing it for the first time when they're trying to get on the chair.
Right on, brother.
Yeah. And to emphasize a point you said, Michael, and Angelo said he agrees, I know Troy does, that there has to be a reason you're doing things. And you've said that before. When you've been on the podcast, you've said it more than once. We could go back to the couple of times you've been on, and you don't do anything in your coaching that isn't for a reason, I believe. And I think
even if it's as random as this is the time to go out and do anything, but there's a reason for doing anything. But yeah, if it has a purpose, then it has some direction, and if it's got some direction and intent, then it becomes manageable. Otherwise, you're just out doing stuff, and
right,
that's fun too.
And I know, and I'm bringing it up because I know you teach I bet you teach more beginner lessons than the three of us guys here from the East combined, because I know that's what you do all winter when you're out West. And, some people say, oh, people of your caliber don't teach beginner lessons. And it's like, yes, Michael does. So what are, when you're looking at a beginner and you have them for maybe multiple lessons, or you have them for the week, I guarantee you have some thoughts in your mind of I would like them to be able to do these things to ski this terrain possibly by the end of their week here at Heavenly. What are some of the thoughts for some of our coaches out there to think about, to go, these are some of the goals or the outcomes you want to work towards, and this is the pieces you do to get there? I know it's a lot, but there's some kind of little pieces, and you can say, hey, these are some outcomes I look for my beginners, and these are a couple of ways I start to work towards it.
Yeah. I want people to get comfortable sliding. and sliding, not slowing down, but sliding. Are you comfortable moving, accelerating? You always got to work on controlling speed and slowing down, but are you comfortable accelerating and standing up on a moving surface? That comes to play when you go over a little bit of a dip or a roll. It comes to play when you get off of a chairlift. And as much as accelerating is important, but decelerating because you go up a piece of terrain or you run into a little bump or something, or a wall, or uphill piece of terrain. So I want to get people just comfortable sliding for one, but accelerating and decelerating. And then it comes to turning. And for that, I'm trying to get people to have it's usually not that tricky for the most part. We all know that we've all had students that just, it makes sense conceptually, but when it translates through their body, it just doesn't equate at first. So you got to take your time there. But if people can start to kind of coax their skis to point in different directions, then I'm trying to do it with their feet close together, going across the hill, skidding, a little bit of, it's all the basic stuff that we all talk about. That's a part of our foundation, but can I get people comfortable sliding, accelerating, decelerating, and then can I get people comfortable standing with their feet close and pointing their skis in a different direction? Because the minute that people get way wide, they're on edges and they're not turning, they're not steering them. Whereas if they can keep them close and we can go across the hill, I will oftentimes teach my first direction changes by traversing with the skis parallel. It's not quite direct to parallel, but that's when you can get both skis to skid sideways, that's when the mountain opens up. That's when the beginner run becomes easy. That's when the green runs become easy, and that's when sections of blue trails become easy. When you can have your skis parallel and get both skis to skid in pointing in the same direction. For me, I feel like at Heavenly, I can open up a world of terrain to people, and they can really start to explore. And then when you explore, then you can talk about, okay, you're going in a straight line and it's really steep. For me, sometimes at Heavenly, there's a couple places where I'm like, dude, we're not making a gliding wedge. I want you to plow snow and brake, and it's by far just huge. Make it as big as you can. But realize that once you do that, you're starting to take turning out of the equation. So let's get the speed in check. The terrain is backed off. Now you can get your feet together and start to twist, steer, turn, direct your ski tips in the same direction.
Yeah. And Troy boy, I know, man, Troy talks a lot about, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I know where I want to finish, and I don't know what I'm going to start with, but I'm going to watch the group. And that's where I can see Michael. He's kind of like, well, I know I'm going here and I'm going to do these things. And you were talking about terrain more than actions, because if you don't have the student in front of you, you don't know what they're doing. So you don't know what you're going to do next, right?
Yes.
Until you see what they do.
And that's out. I don't know their energy or their skill set or the snow surface. And I just watch. Just watch. Yeah. Let them move. Let them get comfortable with the moving, and then see if I can add something of value to their performance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that puts all the fundamentals, starts putting them together with a flow, where sometimes I have a hard time just breaking them out one, because it's like you're thinking about a couple at the same time.
100%. 100%. You might be trying to think about one, and then all of a sudden you have a really positive outcome on a different one that you're like, didn't see that one coming, but all right, we'll take it. It's a success.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where I really want your guys' honest opinion, including Angelo, which I probably know what a lot of them will be, but it's just, I think a lot of folks, when, the coolest thing that we probably, I shouldn't say coolest, I said probably the biggest theme, and Angelo and I have talked about this, the biggest theme of all the folks that we've had the pleasure of being able to chat with, especially all of our team members. Our team absolutely has a theme that you have to be able to self-coach. You have to have some awareness of what you're doing in your performance. And looking at our membership when they're working on their skiing, sometimes they're so dependent on external feedback. But, looking at what you're talking about is you have, even in your own skiing, when you're coaching yourselves, you have some focus, some certain turn you're looking for, where Mike was saying, I'm trying to do the short turn on this piece, just like I'm doing it over on that different terrain. Or you're looking at some ski performance outcome and how do I get there? And then you're looking at the fundamentals, but you really develop what you're going to work on with yourself as to how you feel you're on that snow. If the snow changes, you're changing. And you don't just focus on one thing one movement on one piece of terrain over and over forever.
Not at all. Not at all. I think it's been funny with this place because, like Michael was saying, there's a line on this mountain where the snow changes, and you're feeling great above it. And you get into that line, you're like, yeah, I'm not on. So what do? I do that run again. And if the same thing happened, I do that run again. And I'm then just tweaking, just changing just a little bit. And that's all that, that for me is so much fun, just to try to figure it out, because I kind of know what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to get there all the time, but I got an opportunity to ski on something that's really going to change. I have to change something. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. And I know Michael doesn't make any turn without a focus. I know you don't.
Well, I feel like if you asked Troy about some of his revelations, he'd tell you a couple that I have surprising down here on this trip. He found out that I don't really tune my skis that much down here in Chile.
Oh my God, he said that when we were recording.
Unbelievable. I've been tiptoeing around so much stuff. He's like, I don't tune down here. I'm like, wait, what? Stop.
I don't do much, but it brings the conversation to how you said self-coaching, but how do we create learners?
Yeah.
How do you create a learner within yourself? And I asked that question to us, and I hope that one of our themes at Interski, that since we're putting it on in the U.S. In Vail in 27, is that we ask that question of how do you create learners, not how do you become a good teacher. The U.S. has asked that question and got really good answers and really good information, and it's really helped shape some of our belief systems and polish them. But how do you create learners, and how do I create a learner within myself? Well, I got to have. I'm thinking my way through this because this is a question that I am trying to sort out. Is there a way to create a learner? How do you create the best learner as fast as possible? But I also have a belief about taking shortcuts, and you just can't shortcut experience. And that, I feel like that makes me a better learner at times because I have a bunch of experiences to draw from. But that's only if I've paid attention to those experiences and I've categorized them so that I can recall them and go, you know what? This situation was like 14 years ago in Pico, Vermont, or in Heavenly, California, or at Boston Mills and Brandywine. That this situation right now is similar to that. And I remember how I approached it. And I'm going to try. So I know I have, and I was pretty successful then. So I know I have some type of an answer, not all of it, but some type of an answer. And I know that I can go, okay, I'm going to approach it this way, and let me see what the result is, and then go, it worked out the same way. So therefore, I've got reinforcement. The Pavlovian, the dog, the bell rang, and I went, okay, this should happen next. And then there's other times when I've just gotten slapped upside the head with it and go, well, that wasn't the answer. But I've been able to draw on past experiences to be able to go, okay, this situation, it looks like the oven, it looks like a hot oven, so it could be hot, so I'm not going to touch it. Or you know what I mean? You just use the past to to kind of help predict what could be the combination to be successful with the situation that you're about to encounter, knowing that it might not go that way, but at least you went in with a plan, and now you can change that plan and evolve that plan so that I then have another categorized experience that I'll be better off next time I encounter a situation that kind of, it kind of looks like dog poop and smells like dog poop and taste it. No, I'm not going to taste it because I don't want to know what that, you know what I mean? You know how that joke goes. But that's, but that's how it goes. And I feel like that's a way to create a learner. And I don't know if all the time people, our membership included, the general public that you ski with, if they can categorize or catalog past experiences to help them predict what could be an approach to a future situation. And the more you have, and the quicker you can recall it, the more adaptable you are, and therefore the more successful you are, so that when a guy like Troy skis down the Roca Jack today and the snow conditions change 3 times, it looks like it's no different. But yet you watch somebody else that don't have that ability or those experiences or that recall or that cataloging, they then go, oh, that looks like it was really good there and it was really shitty there. Versus Troy goes down and he makes it all look good. And you go, oh, okay, that's part of being a learner. And I feel like that's a question that we need to look at. How do you build learners? If we could do that, we wouldn't have to worry about having the perfect progression.
I'm waiting for Angelo. He was writing. Whenever he's writing, he's got thoughts. He might be putting them together and processing, but I know he was writing. I saw him.
Earlier, I wrote, Michael said, if you don't go into it organized, ... I loved that word organized. Sometimes, like, if I'm feeling out of balance, that's a great way to think about. I'm feeling kind of disorganized right
Disorganized.
here. Anyway, I wrote that earlier, but no, just right now I agree with what both of these guys said. Troy spoke to tenacity. It's like, oh, I hit the Mason-Dixon line and everything south of that blew up. So what's the solution? Go try it again. Like, there's tenacity. That's an element of being a solid learner. And I like the individual responsibility that Michael speaks to, the categorization of experiences. That's important. And I would offer to that, add to that I think about people who show up at ski schools, snow sports schools, who are already those things. And they oftentimes, in my experience, just be my limited experience, but perfectly autonomous, rational, professional adults will show up, as brand new ski instructors at a snow sports school or snowboard instructors into a culture that doesn't necessarily nurture those things. I think about the new instructor's experience, and I'm assuming you guys have seen this. If I'm wrong, tell me. But new people show up on the scene, and they get this unsolicited feedback from the veterans, and it was like, "Oh, Troy, I saw you on from the chair. It was just terrible." Like, you can't hear very much of that stuff before it starts to beat down on you. And I have seen, people I know are professional in the rest of their life and high achievers and high expectations. But when they arrive in the snow sports school locker room and receive that cultural beatdown, that closed-mindedness, they almost give up their autonomy as learners. And then they start to look for answers externally. I got to ski with Troy. I got to ski with Dave or Michael because I got to get the silver bullet, got to get the magic bean for my level 2 exam or whatever it is. But I feel like a lot of times they would have gotten there a lot faster if the culture had been a lot more welcoming and open to learning, experimentation, failure. But like I call it chest puffery. It seems like I see a lot of chest puffery in the ski industry. People with a decent amount of experience, like a respectable amount of experience, but not realizing that they're part of an industry, part of a global culture of snow sports. And there are people like Michael who, 30 years, 2 hemisphere skiers, like that's a next level that a lot of people aren't even aware of. And we get real protective, I think, and real wordy when we have a tiny little bit of knowledge, and the ego kicks in, and then new people show up, and sometimes the more experienced people want to flex their muscle and, oh, well, you got to earn it in this locker room, kid. But what they're really doing is just, kind of squelching people's opportunity, interest in whatever the word is, learning. And then those people revert into almost like a helpless mode where they feel like they have to get the feedback externally. And I mean, you have to get feedback externally. If I'm working on something, and Troy's been one of my coaches for multiple years. He knows what I'm working on in my skiing. He knows my bad habits. Like, I'll work on stuff independently and see Troy every other month at some event somewhere and say, hey, how's this look or whatever, or Michael, same thing, or Dave, same thing. But so you need that external input for validation. But I feel like because of the culture in some locker rooms, folks give that up way too early. And I think that's part of being a learner too, is just having your, keeping your wits about you when the culture might get tough, when the environment might get tough. But on our end, as veterans in our locker rooms, it's our job to try to prevent that from happening, making the locker room a more welcoming place so that new people can learn at a quicker rate. I think those things go hand in hand.
Everybody's quiet after that.
You guys going to say something?
Yeah. They're thinking, Angelo. It's just mic drop. Boom.
Well, if it's all about balance, then I would say that we also can't lose a bit of the. No, that's not true. We do, but yeah, I'm with you, Angelo, for sure.
Yeah.
I think back on my locker rooms that I had that were really productive and good ones, and you had to open conversations and you were able to ask questions. Every now and again, it wasn't a bad thing that the veteran, in this case, Brian Dolan at the Catamount locker room, kind of did me one of those, like, what are you talking about, you knucklehead? But he also was the first person to say, come on, let's go outside and let's figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think all of us are old enough on this call to have seen the same locker room go through phases, just depending on who's on board on the staff. I've experienced that at my home hill, as I'm sure you guys have too. There are times that are more open to learning and times that are more closed off to it. And you have to navigate those as a learner if you're invested in your own progress, and you have to navigate those.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool. We got kind of, which Angelo was in the scoop. He's probably heard it. So is Troy, but it was kind of neat to hear that. How do you create learners? That's one of the pieces that you'll be thinking about the next 4 years, because Interski's 4 years off, but a whole new team for you, coach. Coming in, not a different group. Some are in their second term, like Troy, or third terms, fourth. But as a group, a new team. That's got to be an exciting time for you for training coming up. You got a little time with the group after the tryout, didn't you not?
We had about a half a day.
Yep. Yeah. So team training this fall will be the big gig. The first training must be always pretty special when there's a new team picked.
It's a lot of fun. Again, you learn a lot about yourself and how you interact with a new group. This is our first team together. And as a result, I know how to interact with Troy. But Katie White, who's here in Portillo, Troy and Katie and myself, Katie and I have worked together here before, but as Troy said when he got here, he hadn't spent much time just interacting with Katie. So they're starting to learn. So you start to figure out how you interact with people. It's just like the Masters Academy when you get your group for the first time, or any clinic, you get your group for the first time, and it's the first time that you're skiing together as a group. So let's figure out how we ski together. Let's figure out how we interact with each other. There's some really good younger talent on this group, and there's some extremely savvy, intelligent folks that have been around that group for a while. So getting those to blend together without upsetting the dynamics, so that a person, examples are abound. But when you take somebody who's there for the first time and somebody who's there for the first time together, but they've done it before for a couple of terms, the comfort level with which you go into a room is a little bit different, and getting those people to mesh. That's why the tryouts are so fun to be a part of. I hope everybody that was a part of it, that they have taken some things away, but why it's so fun, because you're creating a group that you think will work really well together, and getting that group to work really well together is about getting the right people for the job, but then also providing opportunities so that they can interact and work together to say, yeah, you know what, I work really well with Angelo, and I got to work a little bit longer and harder at it with Troy. But I'm going about it trying to find the answer, not trying to find problems. So that's,
and Troy, going in, you've been there once now for the first one, for your first team training. So this will be the second time for a team coming in all together. You must have some of the same thoughts, and then probably some different ones, having some experience.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's like Michael said, this is our first time with this team, and it's really exciting because you got to see it one time, but it's also just when you get in there and you see your friends and you get to meet new amazing people from all over, it really does get exciting. And like Michael said, you work to connect. But the funny thing about it is it doesn't feel like work. It's like, nope, I get it. I can ride this lift with this person. I can we're all in the same team. We're all wearing the same uniform. The selectors did a great job at bringing us together, and our job is to prove that.
No. And Michael, go ahead.
It's different, man. It's always different. I mean, Troy, the last term he was a first term team member, and everything was new. But now he's not that any longer. So there's people coming in that were in his place last time that he can help feel more comfortable getting used to their skin. And a person like Ann can help Troy feel comfortable in his skin a little bit more, and a person like me can help Ann, and then Ann's going to get help from Ellie Matalavich, or from AJ Oliver, or somebody she might know, like Pete Novum, or there's lots of opportunities, and everybody goes into it open-minded to go, I can get something from this person that's going to help me be better.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is, and Troy can speak to it too, because he's been through a term now, but Michael, you've seen tons of folks. You've been on the team and involved with the team as a coach. You're on the team since, I think, 1996. Something that I view as a personal, just kind of seeing people that make it, because I knew Jeb and Matt before they made it. I knew Brian Smith. I've known Troy and I pretty tight before he made the team. To me, it's amazing how much they grow on the team because of the experience they're having, the people they're around, what's expected of them. That experience grows people, from what I've seen from those that go. I mean, can you just speak a little bit of that? You must have seen that a ton.
yeah, man, I see it every time I look in the mirror, for God's sakes. I'm still a knucklehead now, but I was a young knucklehead in 1996, where some of the feedback that was given to me was that there's no way that we're going to put this person on the team, no matter how well they ski. And my my attitude was questioned, because I was comfortable and confident. I was nervous as all get out, but I knew what I was capable of, and I thought that if I could perform as well as I felt like I could, then I would be able to hold my own. And whether I was selected by Sean Smith and Dave Merriam, that was up to them. But if I did whatever I could do, I felt that I could meet the level that was expected. And every single year, every single term, you get a little bit better at something else, and because you want to get better at something, and you take the opportunity. Angelo talked about a locker room culture. I think a goal of myself and Matt, who's also a coach, the two of us on the Alpine side of things, but also all the coaches. We want to create that type of an environment where everybody has an opportunity to stretch and grow a little bit, from the help or with the help and support of anybody else. And I'm sure that all of us could find examples of learning or stretching and growing because of the help or support from somebody that's been around for a long time, maybe like myself, or Jeb or Matt, and then somebody who's just coming onto this thing, like Troy, or Zoe or Ben. And I use the Alpine team as my examples because that's who I spend the most time with. But I can reflect on interactions with Lindsay Stevens that have just been amazing. Like, shit, that was awesome. I think I can get better, because if I can get better, I'm going to be closer to as good as she is at this thing.
Yeah.
So it just never stops, which is what you got to be continue to be successful. Yeah. The minute that it stops, you start to go, well, maybe that's long enough. So that's just how it is.
Troy's shaking his head. Yes, I know he's enjoyed his first term.
Yeah. And, just, reflecting on the first term, it's like there's that internal challenge that we're all working on. It's like, you got to keep up. You walk into that group and you're like, man, these guys and gals they're so good on snow. And then all of a sudden they open their mouth and they're like, dang, they're really good at that too. You're like, okay, I've got to step up the game. And it's always that, and it's not coming from external sources. It's just that you or we have so much pride in our craft and being a part of this team. I don't want to let anybody else down. I want to be able to stand up and just hold my own, and no matter where I'm at. So that's something that I'm very proud of.
Yeah. And I have to say, like, for Angelo and I, we talked about it even way before Angelo got his education program development manager. However, that I always have trouble with that title, man. We have to have something that reads a little easier, Angelo. What is it? Education development manager. I got to write that.
That's what it is.
I have to think about it. But, we talk about it, that it's been really great that all the team members we've had on, and there's still more to have, but Michael, you've been so supportive of us on the podcast, but it's amazing the feedback that Angelo and I get from those that listen, because it gives them an opportunity to hang out like they're in Michael Rogan's locker room. Like they're in Troy Walsh's locker room. They're in the locker room with Brian Smith or Jeb Boyd or Matt Boyd when they're able to listen to the podcast. And that, just to think about how you're talking. When we had the three coaches on, when we had Richard Jameson and
Jeff Marks
and you, people would just love that, because they're like, this like three guys just sitting around talking in the locker room, but look at who these guys are, because they don't. When have people been able to sit down with the three of you. So I just want to thank both of you and thank all the team members and those that have been on the podcast, because the listeners have an opportunity that a lot of folks don't get to sit down and chat. And that's why people go, Capron, what do you get out of the podcast? It's like, I get to sit down with Michael and Troy and Angela. I get to sit here for an hour and a half and no one's bothering us. No one comes up and interrupts us while we're chatting with you. So it's pretty cool. And I do appreciate it. And I know the listeners do. So thank you so much for taking the time. While you guys are down there skiing, and I'm jealous, Troy, but it's great to see the smile. I know there's at least good skiing somewhere, so I just got to wait a few more days, a few more months.
There's good skiing someplace. And
sometimes it's even okay to get, when you get like, I really want to be there skiing, I want to kill them, but it's good that somebody's getting it. It's good. There's good skiing, but
Dave, to your point, Dave, every single time there's a new team, a new term starts within our organization, there's always events where there are new team members that are at those events and folks that have been around for a while. And there's an opportunity there to meet somebody new who is still, we're all in our process of development at some stage. But I would encourage, anytime you get a chance to spend a little bit of time, half a day or a full day or a week or whatever it is the event you're at is, spend time with people that you haven't spent time with. I love the fact that over the course of 30 years, you get people that are like, I can't wait to go ski with you again, or we haven't skied together in a while. We skied together before. And I know that everybody that's been around that appreciates that support and that level of trust. And it's one of those drugs that keeps you coming back for sure. But none of those people, Sean Smith, didn't get to where he was. Remember Blakesley, they didn't get to where they were because they just had it. It was cultured and nurtured through the opportunity to spend time with the membership that expects a lot of us, which is wonderful. That should never go away, but expect a lot of you from a supportive point of view, so that we can continue to grow, because as we grow, then that means that the quality of experience that the membership we get to ski with, that grows as well. So if every time going into a new term, go spend some time with somebody that you haven't spent time with before, and find the best that you be your best at helping them become their best, so that everybody has a great time and has a memorable experience. But it happens every 4 years or every term. There's new team members that aren't necessarily a known quantity, and they are some amazing, amazing people. And that takes nothing away from the people that are no longer a part of the group, because they continue to be special and really amazing and truly talented people, but they've moved on for one reason or another. But these new folks that are a part of this group moving forward get a chance, take an opportunity to get to know them a little bit. Get a chance to find out what they're about and who they are and what they can help you with, because they truly are special people.
Cool. Hopefully we see some of them here in the East. We know we see Pete Novum. He's a new team member. And then Katie, hopefully Katie or Elle, and who am I missing? I know, because I don't have the list in front of me. Who else are new team members?
Yeah.
AJ Oliver.
Yeah. And maybe they'll be out here from Masters Academy, and some folks can jump in.
Going through the numbers right now.
Yeah. Don't forget somebody, Troy. They're going to come back on you. That's why I was like, if I name a few, it's like if we miss somebody. Oh, but
we're all new. We're all new to this team.
So even Troy Walsh, she's new. Maybe they haven't skied with you yet, Troy. So,
brand new to this team.
Yeah, it's a Superman. If people haven't gone, if you're from the East and you haven't gone to Masters Academy, which I think it's going to have a new name this year, which I don't know what it.
Summit Academy.
The Summit Academy. So if you go into the Eastern Summit Academy to get to ski with the team members, ski with somebody new, as Michael's saying, just to support them and support some learning, and it's pretty cool. Angelo, anything
I thought you were going to say something else after that.
No, I didn't want to just go to the final credits without going to my host to see if there's the education development manager.
You got it. Great to see you guys.
The new ones are great. I mean, again, as the technical coach with Matt Boyd of the Alpine team, Pete Novum, the East Nose, AJ Oliver, Katie White, Ellie Matalavich, Dominique Vetramile. Ben Potts is repeating it himself on the freestyle side of things. But the Flynn brothers, and then you get into the veterans. Troy, obviously the East knows, but Steven out of Sun Valley, and KJ and Ann and Josh Fa. It's just an amazing group of people, and we are able to get to where we are because of the stepping on the backs of the people that came before us. So that it's a pretty special. I've always said it, but it's a pretty special thing to be a part of.
Yeah. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Troy, Michael. Thank you very much for doing this. It's kind of cool. I think people are going to love it up here in this heat, and to get it out there to let them see this. I mean, we got heat across the country, man. I don't know if there's a place that isn't roasting right now in the U.S. Maybe Alaska isn't, but even Hawaii, I think, is pretty hot. So it's kind of cool to see there's some great snow down there and start talking some skiing. And I know Dave Berger from PA will be very happy. Morning, Angelo. He's been bugging us for some content and is a huge supporter. And thanks, Dave, for supporting us. And he's high on the list of one of our great supporters, and we appreciate his support. But thanks. And I'm looking forward to skiing with both of you and Angelo soon. November is too far away, but it'll be here soon. We can go to Big Snow. We can ski in Jersey in October, maybe. I don't know if Troy will go. Come on, Troy.
I'll go. I'd love to be in Big Sky in October.
Yeah, Big Sky. No, we're going to Big Snow.
No, Big Snow. I'd love to be in Big Snow in October. To be quite honest, I think there'd be something different and unique for us as a group.
Yeah.
And you don't have to deal with early season Summit County weather, which is usually good and predictable. But it would be good to also be able to have it would be just a different experience.
Yeah. It's fun. It's good to get the crew together. We've done it a couple of years now, and we've had about 30, I think, Angelo, each time, haven't we? We had 30 the first time and almost 30 last year.
I'd maybe pushing 40.
Yeah. So pretty cool. Mm-hmm. It's pretty neat to put the skis on when you're coming in shorts. It's kind of like skiing hood, but it's a little smaller than hood.
Walk-in freezer.
Yes, it is, into the walk-in freezer. Then Angelo can go shopping for his Vans. And then what's that tea you get?
Bubble tea.
Well, you got to get bubble tea and noodle bowl after you get your Vans. Yeah.
So he has to go shopping for the Vans, then he goes for that. So, and you can ride the roller coaster, you can play mini golf. It's all kinds of stuff in the American Dream Mall. But thanks, fellas. And I don't know if Robin's down there, Michael, but if she is, say hello to her. If not, she's probably there. She is up in the picture.
Robin's always around.
Yeah,
she'll be here. She'll be here down here in August 10th. But
cool.
In the meantime, I get to be around a photo of her.
There you go. Well, when you chat with her on the phone or whatever, tell her we said hello, and hopefully we'll see her on snow this winter. Thanks, fellas. Been awesome. This has been the Fall Line with Chaos and Company.
Great seeing you guys.
Take care, guys.